Jesse Wagner, what's up, man? How you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I know you're based in, I think, Los Angeles. So how's the whole Corona situation been for you?
Yeah, just like everywhere else. We haven't been much up to anything since March, you know. But after all the years of touring so much, it's kind of a breath of fresh air in a sad way, of course, but to finally be home and be with the family and everything like that. Yeah, but we'll see how much longer it lasts.
Have you got a chance to like start going out, at least to public places at all?
No, I've gone golfing a couple times here and there with my old man. Of course, keeping distance and different
Yeah.
carts and everything like that. We've had a couple times that we've had my nephews come over. My sister has three boys, so actually today is one of their birthdays. So we're
Okay.
gonna have them come over tomorrow, and he's gonna have a little quarantine birthday party at our house because we have a swimming pool. So he's excited about that. But other than family, yeah, not much. But yeah, the Aggrolites had a show last Saturday. It was an outdoor event. Masks were required. They were only letting in so many people at a time, keeping it the the amount of people in. I think it was like restricted at like 150 people or less or something.
Hmm.
And it it still feels like we should hold off. You know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
worth a try. And it was at a flea market, so they had tents set up. It was like a big outdoor thing. But at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
time, I don't think we're quite there yet
Mm.
to be doing shows. I see people doing these the drive-in movie theaters and stuff like that, which is awesome. But as far as playing a show like we just did, I think it's better to still hold off and wait it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's too dangerous still. That's how I feel. But
That's a pretty popular thing now since people can't, go inside and at least have open like full capacity. A lot of people have been doing the drive-ins. I haven't seen any around here, at least because I'm always keeping an eye out for live shows or at least comedy
yeah,
clubs. And I think by next month, I'm seeing like stuff is scheduled to be open. But yeah, I haven't seen any drive-in shows, but I'm curious of like how that actually looks in person because I haven't seen it like, or have
yeah.
really heard any results in regards to those.
Yeah, I haven't either, but we got offered for one. There's one in San Diego. We haven't said yes or no yet.
Mm,
And there's some that are going on out in like L.A. County and a couple in I think in Santa Ana even. If I'm right, I might be wrong on that. But I have some friends that have done it, and it's funny. One of my friends, his name is Joe Sib. He runs. He used to he runs the record label Side One Dummy, and
okay.
now he's a stand-up comedian. He's a singer for like a few punk bands back in the day. Anyways, he does stand-up comedy, and he told me the story about performing at one of those drive-in things, and he said it was a crazy feeling because he's out, he's on that stage, and it's just a bunch of cars, and he tells the joke, and then he just hears people honking their horns or whatever, or flashing the headlights. But I know this. I think the Slackers have done some, and
Okay.
Dave Hilliard did mention it to me. And I guess that people still get to, they still sit outside of their cars and all that. So you definitely do see people and everything, but I don't have any personal experience as of yet. But I think anything to kind of keep it still alive is very important. And I just really hope that we can all get back to it soon because I really miss it, and I'm sure a lot of people, really miss live entertainment. This live streaming thing is pretty cool that people are doing, and we have just discussed that after we did this show that we're going to venture into that now. So we have a confirmed show coming up November 6th that
Hmm.
we'll be doing. And I really don't want to talk about it just yet, but November 6th, keep an eye out for the Aggrolites, agroreggae.com or the Aggrolites on the Instagram or Facebook. And you'll be hearing information about it pretty soon. It's going to be, we got like a little cool, it's not going to be your average just Aggrolites playing Aggrolite songs.
Yeah, yeah.
We're getting creative about it. So November 6th.
I would love to catch that live stream show. I don't know if you get a chance to go much to South Florida to do any live shows, but I mean, I definitely would love to see a live show from you all, but I would grab an opportunity to do that live stream show.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we were just in Florida last summer. We did a tour with Long Beach Dub All Stars, and
Oh, nice.
Mike Pinto band. If you
Yeah,
heard of
yeah.
him from Philadelphia, so that was a nice run. We always enjoyed Florida. This was our first time going down to the Keys, and that was awesome because I've never been down that way. And yeah, my father when he moved out, my family's all from Cleveland, and when he moved out of Cleveland, out of his parents' house, his like young bachelor days, he moved out to Florida, and he always talks about Florida being like, Florida, how much he loved Florida. So he'd always talk about how he'd rather live in Florida or go on vacation to Florida than Hawaii or anything like that, you know. So going out there and hitting the beaches and everything was definitely knew what he meant by that, you know. So good times.
Well, growing up here in South Florida, I've always heard of that and like how people react to it. But to me, it's just like, oh, it's just
Just
home. It's
Florida.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know anything else until I moved out to other places and started traveling around. And I'm like, you know what? I can see why people love Florida so much.
Yeah. That's the same here growing up in LA, you know, or I don't necessarily live in LA, but LA County area.
Yeah.
And it's you just think of it as regular thing when you grow up out here, and then you
Oh
go to
yeah.
other countries and people are talking about Hollywood and Disneyland and movie stars, and it's like
Yeah.
it's really not that, but
Yeah.
I guess it is, you know. like you don't go to the grocery store and see Tom Hanks there,
Oh yeah.
buying a chicken pot pie or anything. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But people think of it that way, so it's crazy.
Well, have you got a chance to pretty much entertain yourself by watching any live stream shows yourself, maybe comedy
Yeah,
stuff or music?
yeah. Every time I'll see a friend, fellow musician in another band, like post something about a show, I'll sit and watch some of it or most of it. Um, I've been entertaining myself recently by I was doing these dedications. People were because we're all out of work right now,
Yeah.
so we're no gigs or anything, and a lot of people were doing the live stream acoustic sets, which I've done a couple of those too. But I thought of an idea to just say, hey, for a donation, I'd like to sit and record whatever request you make. It was kind of like just kind of like a radio DJ style, I'll give a little shout out, give a little message that they want me to say, and learn a song. And I let the songs be whatever. So it was like, I had so many fun requests of like, it wasn't just ska. And I thought I would get majority ska songs or rocksteady songs. And I got everything from like Tom Petty to Frank Sinatra to the
Oh wow.
Beatles to there was things that I hadn't even heard of where I'd have to just sit and learn the songs. But it was a way to keep my blades sharpened,
Oh yeah.
while not being on the road and not playing. And I also was learning a recording program I had just bought on my laptop called Logic. So I was kind of learning the program and learning all the different instruments and parts and everything. So it was a real good challenge, and it kept me really occupied for a while, to where I even got so like into it that I had to stop because it was just like
Oh yeah.
I was giving myself tinnitus from wearing headphones so much in the
Oh yeah.
room, and I'd be up there like 13, 14 hours a day recording just one song because I'm doing backup vocals and bass and drums and piano and all that. So it was fun, but it was getting too much. It was like becoming too hard. But I'd like to get back to that eventually when there's more time to do it. So, but that's been entertaining. That's been the entertaining thing. The other thing that I've been doing is playing Monopoly with my wife. We went to Target one day and just went board game crazy and bought Risk and Monopoly in life.
Oh
And,
nice.
for some reason, yeah, we'll spend a good 3 days on a Monopoly game at a time, and she still hasn't won yet.
Well, I can relate on the headphone situation. I mean, doing these
Oh
podcasts, I
yeah,
edit everything, especially when I add music, and I always make sure the sound levels not make it so loud for people to bother their ears. And I'm listening to it on my headphones, and I'm repeatedly listening to it. I'm sure you do it with your music at least. And yeah, this is probably like a health hazard just having my headphones for this
so
long.
much. I started getting scared because not only just the ringing in my ear, but
Oh yeah.
for no reason at all, just everything would sound echoey.
Oh yeah.
It was like scary, and I'd have like rumbles like deep inside, like my
Yeah.
eardrums or something would run. I thought I did something like permanent, And I gave it a break for
Oh,
just a
yeah.
few weeks, and everything came back normal. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel, unless I'm more deaf, and I don't realize it. You know what I mean? Like
No,
you could definitely get more dumb over the years, which I've done. So
yeah.
getting deaf and dumb more deaf and dumb is probably a possibility too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well, you guys recently did a live stream show in which it was attributed to Toots from Toots and the Maytals. So how did that show go?
Roger, our organ player, he does a podcast that airs every Saturday. Him and Devin Morrison, and it's called Reggae Podclash. So that
Mhm.
was nice. It was I was just a guest who got to perform a song for it. They
Okay.
had a few different. It was like the whole show was just playing some Toots classics, like their favorite records or 45s, and then they'd have like a guy come in and do a little video. So like the dedication things I've been doing all the last few months, I set up my camera and did like a little thing in Logic and recorded the parts and did it for that. So it was good. It went well, and yeah, man, everybody everybody's bummed about Toots,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, we've talked so much about him the last few weeks, but I could never stop talking about him because he's really, to me, the most brilliant one, or voice. He's the best voice, and his songs too, man. Like I can't get enough of Funky Kingston, the album,
Yeah.
and yeah, huge inspiration over the years. We lost a legend, and far beyond just reggae, ska, and rocksteady. I mean, that guy's touched the hearts to
Oh,
many
yeah.
people in the rock and roll scene, and obviously punk rock with the Clash, and then even to Willie Nelson or Bonnie Raitt and things
Mhm.
like that. It's just like, yeah, that guy is legendary. So it was good.
Well, and I saw, like, an old YouTube video of I guess you guys were playing together, like, it looked like just a socially
Oh
you were
yeah,
playing together. So did you have some kinda close relationship with him?
I have to post that at least once a year because that was honestly, out of all the years of touring and all the places we've been, that moment, it only was about 30 minutes, but that
Mhm.
30 minutes was probably the most memorable and exciting parts of all the tours. Like just one of those memories I'll never forget. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How it happened was, no, I don't have a personal relationship, or didn't have a personal relationship with him. I've only met him a handful of times. I've seen him play in California a few times. I saw him play at the Santa Monica Pier. I've seen him play not too far from where I used to live, a place called the Coach House, and that was cool because it was like table, tables, and it wasn't like a dance floor. And he did an acoustic set,
Okay.
so it was really cool. I was like a few seats away from like the stage and just got to watch him do this whole acoustic set, like sitting down, like MTV Unplugged kind of style. But this particular time, we were doing like the big festival circuit, all over Europe. It was a long tour. I remember the tour being I think it was about 13 weeks or so, on and off.
Mhm.
And this was while the time. This was Budapest, Hungary. I forget the name of the festival, but there was a good string of shows that Toots was on also, and we made sure to always, me at least, and at least one other or two other Aggrolite guys or three. Every time he'd play, we'd be on the side of the stage watching the whole thing.
Yeah.
Every single one of those shows.
Oh, yeah.
So it turned into one of those things where he's starting to recognize, like he'll give the head nod or "Good morning, Toots," setting up, or "Hi, how are you?" Just real quick, hello, goodbye kind of
Yeah.
thing. But never really wanted to like stop and you know talk
Yeah.
to him for too much or bother him or anything
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. Did get a photograph with him, coming from the stage back to the dressing rooms.
Yeah.
But this night we had it was our dressing room. Toots, I don't know, he was like right by us. So I was walking back, and one of his backup singers, I believe it was his daughter, she was like, "Hey," like she recognized me, and she's like, Toots would like to say hello.
Oh.
So I was like, "Really? Oh, I'd love to come." I thought it was
Yeah.
just going to be a quick like autograph or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
No, I came in. He was sitting at a table, and he had a bottle of Hennessy and a joint, and he poured a glass for me and poured.
Oh,
He was
cool.
pouring his in a water bottle because they were ready to get going.
Oh, yeah.
And we sat and just started talking. I was telling him about how big of a fan the Aggrolites were, and our songs, and I mentioned the song to him, and we just started singing together and harmonizing.
Oh
And
man.
I was like in so much shock, and I was the only guy there. I didn't think any other Aggrolite would believe me. He was actually nice enough to let me go try to find another guy, and I ended up getting our tour manager and our bass player Jeff. And that's
Yeah.
why in the middle of the video, you could see Jeff like look at the camera like, we're trying to get Jeff to sing, like, come on, sing with
Yeah.
us, because he's probably so shocked at the moment too,
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we at least got that like 1 minute of us singing together with this. You could hear this his girl singing in the background too, and it was like
Mhm.
it was just a big sing along. Like, and he wasn't holding back with anything. He was
Oh
open to
yeah.
sing any song we wanted,
Oh
and
yeah.
that was great. Then we all got kicked out because the show was over. So it was like, all right, clear the dressing room, and that was the end of the night. But that's the last time I ever saw him,
Yeah.
and honestly, that's all it ever had to be for me, was just that
Oh
moment,
yeah.
And I'm lucky I got to see him play live, because a lot of people I know haven't.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And the
yeah,
proof's there, like the video is posted, so if anyone wanted to see it, they could easily
yeah.
see like
They could
y'all
see
just
that
walk.
quick little
Oh yeah.
45 seconds of me acting like a clown, and Toots looking great. Yeah, but yeah, when he passed, man, I felt like I don't get too teary eyed over famous people or
Mhm.
musicians or so. I got when Prince died, I felt really bad. I was in the
Mhm.
middle of Europe with the reggae workers of the world with Vic and Nico, and I remember I was like, "You guys aren't feeling as bad as I am about this." But I don't know. I felt like a relative had passed. I couldn't get over
Oh
it. It was
yeah.
on my mind like that whole night when I got the text and looked it up. I wanted to make sure it was really true.
Yeah.
And I found that it was, because a lot of people were just kind of talking over the last so many days, like, "Oh, dude,
Mm.
they do that with every." Years ago, I remember that was going on with Uroy, and Uroy
Mhm.
ended up being okay. But once I found out, man, I went in my little room with the record player, and I just played his
Oh
albums all
yeah.
night, and that lasted into the entire weekend, just playing his music around the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bummer, man. But hey, he got one more album out, and he got to get that release. It's a shame that he didn't get to experience the fame out, or whatever, the hype or whatever out of it.
Yeah.
But at least he got to share it with us.
Yeah.
We got one more out of to it, so
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for that, and all the music that he's given the world.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, obviously he's been an influence on your music, and I've heard how you described your music. It's like more of a late 60s, early 70s influence, which me being a big fan of like reggae and ska music, like going far past, I'm just curious, why has that time period been so influential on your music?
you know, I think it all goes back to years ago, in previous bands that I was a part of, and a few other members were a part of also. Uh, there was our band called the Rhythm Doctors, and the Rhythm Doctors was what we were doing was we were big fans of Hepcat.
Mhm.
Hepcat was pretty big at the time. They just got signed to Hellcat, or maybe this was even before they were signed to Hellcat. They were still on BYO, whatever. The album Scientific was out,
Yeah.
and it was blowing up to where it was like everybody was like trying to play old school ska, and it,
Mm.
and it became like a thing, because back then it was like all third wave bands like Real Big Fish and Save Varus and
Yeah.
the Aquabats and third
Yeah.
the third wave thing, ska punk and all that was really popular at that
Yeah.
time. So Hepcat was kind of like the one band carrying the banner of like, hey, and created like its own little scene throughout the Los Angeles area and throughout the world once they started touring around Europe and stuff. So it was like what we wanted to do is we wanted to do what Hepcat was doing, but we wanted to touch a different element of that of Jamaican music rather than
Mhm.
jumping on the bandwagon and trying to play old school ska.
Yeah.
Because we felt nobody could do it better than Hepcat. We were like, Hepcat, they're doing it. Nobody could
Mhm.
be better than that. We might as well do something else. So we came up with doing skinhead reggae, and that was the '69 sound, and it was all instrumental, trying to be like the Upsetters. But the point of that was the things that Two Tone was inspired by. A lot of that was skinhead reggae, like Simmer Up and groups like that. And then also the punk community, it just made sense. Skinheads and punk rockers and all that stuff. It's like, and this music's like revved up too, just like ska music. I mean, it's stuff to dance to. So that's where the idea came from, and it stuck with it. there's a few other bands that were coming out at the time. There's a band called the Vessels, and it was members of Rhythm Doctors and the Vessels that had actually created the Aggrolites. So between those two bands being influenced by that style and kind of carrying the torch in those days, it was like, let's make the Aggrolites the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, except that was an instrumental band and the Vessels had a vocalist. So it was like, hey, we need vocals this time around, you know, or at least the Rhythm Doctors were saying that, the guys that were left in that. So that's where they jumped, threw me on a mic and said, hey, start singing. So it went from there.
You guys pretty much started the genre called dirty reggae, which is also the name of your last album. So how did you all come up with that term?
Dirty reggae, it's just the same kind of thing. It was like trying to describe to each other that sound, you know? It's funny because every member of the Aggrolites is going to say they invented the word, but nobody really knows who. It just was the way that we talk. We all talk that way. I remember a specific time me saying it to somebody. I remember a specific time another guy saying it to somebody, but it's just the way that it sounded, like that.
Oh yeah.
Like the way that it was recorded, it was like live and raw.
Oh yeah.
And there's even like little parts that could be out of tune or a guitar part that might be a little bit off, or you hear that flaw in the song, but it makes it even more organic and just the energy in it. You know what I mean? So we love that. We loved that style back in those days, like that analog, just real, everybody in a room writing all together, or just making it up on the spot and throwing out rhythm after rhythm after rhythm. So it was like, man, that sound is just like that raw, funky, gritty. I guess you could have called it anything, gritty reggae or funky, you know, well, not funky reggae, that's already been used. But dirty reggae just stuck. And it was like, hey, let's, you know, when we quit with the song Dirty Reggae was an idea because we're trying to do like James Brown kind of thing, like, you know, like say it loud, I'm black and proud, or, you know, like have like a vocal chant, like a chant thing. So it's like, hey, let's just do the Dirty Reggae thing. So when I got in the room, there was no like lyrics or anything. To this day, I don't even know what I'm saying in that song. I got a Gia, all right, a good, a voodoo, a boom. Like I don't know what I'm saying at all, except for the Dirty Reggae part. And so that ended up being a song, and then it was like, hey man, that's a great album title too. Let's make this the whole vibe. And now let's start calling ourselves a dirty reggae band, because none of us, we were all from that like community, but none of us were skinheads. You know, we weren't all rude boys and skinheads and wearing suits, and you know, like we loved that subculture, but we weren't personally like that as an image. You know, there was a time when I had a mohawk. Our bass player had a mohawk. He was covered in tattoos. You know, we were wearing like fighter pilot outfits. Like we looked like punk rock thug dudes playing old school reggae. So to call ourselves skinhead reggae wasn't going to work. So it was like, hey, let's just call it dirty reggae. Then we could be whatever we want, and nobody could tell us different. That's what it is. So that's where it all came from, and it's awesome too, because there's bands of this day like that I've came across like throughout Europe and stuff that call themselves a dirty reggae band. So it feels good. It feels good to hear that it might not be as huge as what Two Tone had become, but it's still, there's a dirty reggae scene, and that's awesome that there is, you know? So.
No, that's an interesting way to describe the music. And I mean, especially when you mention like that raw sound, and I've gone through all your music, and especially the live album, and especially this recent EP that you did with Sugar Shack Sessions. And if anyone listens to it, they can definitely hear that raw, dirty reggae sound. So how did that project come about with the band working with Sugar Shack Sessions to make that EP?
Well, we were touring with the Long Beach Dub All Stars and Mike Pinto, and we were going through Florida. And I got to be honest, I don't know if they sent a contact to our tour manager, or if somebody reached out for us, but it might have been even, you know, the Free Coasters are. Have you ever heard of that band? Yeah, it might even been one of them from there that got us in contact. Regardless, somebody put us in contact.
Yeah.
And our tour manager was talking with them, and they invited us down. And we were coming straight from Key West, so I remember we had to get up really early.
Oh yeah.
We had to get up at like 5 or 6 in the morning to drive all the way to where they were. And we did the show that show was early. It was like 8 or 9. I still had like a groggy voice and like,
Oh
you know, I
man.
was, from not sleeping much the night before or whatever. So I remember that, but it ended up being a great time. And those Sugar Shack guys are awesome. And the production and the things that they release are always, top
Oh
notch.
yeah.
And it was a great thing to be a part of, like a big honor.
I saw the videos too on the Sugar Shack Sessions YouTube channel, and you have some like awesome sunglasses, like some large sunglasses. I was like, damn, those are some awesome shades you got.
Those are my old man glasses. Yeah, I like those glasses. I get teased
Oh
a
yeah.
lot for them, but hey, whatever.
Oh hell
Those
no.
are my old man glasses.
Those were sweet shades, man.
Those are called Ultra Goliaths.
Okay. Yeah, I
And
gotta.
like Run DMC wore them too. It's not just like
Oh.
little old men that would wear them.
Oh yeah.
They're cool glasses.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I like your style, man. You bring old school back.
Another one of my friends calls them my Jackie O glasses. And I'm like, these aren't women's glasses, damn it. But even if they were, they still look cool. I'm down with them. Yeah, the old man glasses.
Yeah. Well, on the prior album, Reggae Now, I noticed it has a Black Panther on the cover, which I believe, is also on the self-titled album, which I think
Yeah.
is in '06. Is there a reason why the cover albums associate the band with that animal?
It really isn't. It's a tough looking animal.
Oh yeah.
And back in the day when we were doing the self-titled record, we were all about wanting the album artwork to look vintage, So we wanted it to look like an old 70s like reggae LP. We always imagined things how they would look on LP. We never cared about what it would look like on C. It was always, well, we cared, but never like it was like, oh, this would look badass as a record. And I believe it might have been our bass player Jay that came across. Like we were going to the designer guy at Hellcat, and he had like a book of old artwork that like you're allowed to use, I guess, because it's outdated or something. Not, I don't know. It's like free artwork that you can't get in trouble.
Okay.
And we came across that sketch of it, and I think I don't even think that's a panther. I think it's a lion.
Okay.
But people say everything, but it just looked tough. It was like a tough looking picture.
Oh, yeah.
It was timeless. It looked like it could have came out as a 70s LP or a
Oh yeah.
mid 2000s LP.
Oh yeah.
So that was the beginning of it. There was like people that started getting tattoos and stuff of it and making like bootleg shirts, and it was like, I guess this is our logo now. I guess this is like our thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So that was it. It was just like, let's keep going with that theme. So we put out a 45 a while ago with a tiger on it. We put out Rugged Road, which has lions on it. And then when it came to this album, our good friend Tokyo Hero, who's a really well-known tattoo artist and also artist. He does a lot of design work for bands and stuff. And I told him, I was like, we want to go with that same vibe, like 70s style, maybe kind of like a watercolor or just something. And we've been using the cat theme, so you might as well just put a cat on it. And Hero took it from there, you know what I mean? And it became what it is. So to this date, it's my favorite album cover we've ever had. I'm stoked on it.
Oh yeah, it's a sick cover album.
Yeah, but that's that. I wish there was more interesting story to that, but no, it's just always been. It kind of became our thing, like our look, So, anyways.
Well, I want to talk about a side project I think you all are involved with, in which you have a IPA called Aggrolite. So, what got you all interested in beer?
Okay, that's a funny story. So, Ska Brewing is the company. And they've been around for a long time now. And this is maybe 15 years ago or more. We played one of their festivals out in Colorado, long time ago, early Aggrolite days. And we had become friends with the guys. And it was a great concert. So they've always been hype on the Aggrolites and so on. And so we recently, last year, got the phone call to do their another anniversary show. And we did, and it went well. And we ended up hanging out with the owner at the end of the night. And I was like joking around with him. It all started as literally just a joke. But I was like, they had just put out the Rancid beer, Ruby Soho. Mm-hmm. So I knew that they were doing like beers with bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So literally just a joke was like, "Hey man, you ever think of doing like a low calorie beer? Call it, instead of like Bud Light or Coors Light, you call it
Yeah.
Aggrolite." And he was like, "Oh, that's a great idea. Let's get on it." And I took it as a joke. Like I didn't think anything would ever happen. And sure enough, a few months later, I get a phone call from Scott Brewing saying, "Hey, we're gonna put it out if that's cool with you guys. It's an IPA."
Mhm.
Like we had nothing to do with the tasting of it. We had nothing to do with making it an IPA, anything like that. It was just using the name Aggrolite. And they said, yeah, we asked if they could put our website on the can and our little Panther on the can, and they said, of
Yeah.
course. So that they put that on, and we were stoked that there was a beer named after us. So
Yeah.
that's that. I got a case. I want to see if I could get another case because that case went pretty fast in our household. But yeah, they don't sell it out here yet. I think things slowed down a lot because of COVID. So I think like getting things out in other states and all that. But hopefully one day it will be everywhere. Have they seen it? And it's not in Florida. I doubt it, right?
I haven't seen it, but man, I can always order it. I have a friend that's really big on IPA. I'm really big on hard ciders, but
Hmm.
she loves IPA, so I'll probably order it just for her.
Yeah. Well, for an IPA, I think, and I'm not just saying this because it says Aggrolite, but it really is. Everybody that I know that likes IPA and really enjoys IPA says it's a good tasting beer.
Okay.
It's a good it's light, so it keeps
Oh,
you
yeah.
you could drink a lot of them and not
Oh, yeah.
it's not gonna like get you all stomach fill up your stomach and keep you full. You could suck them down on a hot day.
Yeah. You keep yourself pretty busy because besides being in the Aggrolites, you're also in another band called UXB. So
Mhm.
how are you able to balance being in multiple bands at the same time?
Well, these days it's simple. No, I mean those guys. The UXB United X Bombs is the long version of the name,
Mhm.
and those guys are all uh, quite a few years older than me. They're all in their mid 50s. They've been around for a long time. If you've ever heard of the old punk rock band called US Bombs with
Mhm.
Dwayne Peters as the singer. So it's the three ex members of the US Bombs. So one guy lives way out on the East Coast. He just had moved to Rhode Island, but another guy lives in Orange County, and the drummer lives in Arizona. So we don't really get the time to see each other much, anyways. We keep in touch over the phone and all that, and that's what it was. It's like when the Aggrolites are home from a tour, and everybody was able to get together. We all got together and recorded a bunch of demos, and then that sat for 8 months, and then so it's not like managing the time to do both is definitely not an easy thing to say. Like it was easy because those things were recorded a long time ago. Like that idea came up maybe 2 or 3 years ago
Yeah.
before it ever saw the light of day and actually got released to the public. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, we recorded the album back in, I believe it was October of last year. So just to take that long to come out all the way to August of the year following year. But hopefully you'll see a lot more of that, I don't know when we're going to get back to touring and gigs and all that, but we're definitely had some plan. This was going to be extremely busier for me because it was going to be like Aggrolite tour, UXB tour, Aggrolite tour, UXB tour.
Yeah.
So hopefully there'll be one.
Yeah. And anyone that knows anything about you or even listening to this conversation, they could know that obviously you're big on music and music has been such a big impact in your life and just, the history of music. And I heard that your dad and your uncle were also musicians and I think they were in bands as well. So
Mhm.
were they the ones that really inspired you to become a musician yourself?
Yeah, my dad a lot more than my uncle in the sense of storytelling. My uncle's band was more they did the touring and they played around and they actually like opened up for Isaac Hay. He's got some stories. They were called Rastus and they were out of Cleveland, Ohio, and they were like rivals with Chicago, like that whole like '70s horn band kind of like Tower Power, that era
Yeah.
of music. which was inspired by like Motown and Stax and soul.
Yeah.
My uncle's got like the biggest soul collection on 45. That guy could like compete against any like Northern Soul mod dude today and play some pretty freaking unbelievable gems out of his selection of 45s. So musically, yeah, I mean, I grew up listening to his music. But as far as my dad was always in a band, always played rhythm guitar. But it got as far as just being like the local Cleveland band that would play all the high school proms,
Yeah.
and that circuit back in those days, that was like a common thing. You didn't have really DJs, you had bands play. So man, it'd be like, I remember being like 11 or 12 years old and coming home with a Boy Scout thing and like hiding it because I thought Boy Scouts was like for nerds. And my dad was sitting over there and he called me Jughead my whole life. Hey, Jughead, I saw this,
Yeah.
You want to go? Let's join the Boy Scouts. When it starts getting, goofy and nerdy, then we'll quit. But you get to go fishing, you get to go camping.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So it was like, yeah. And my dad joined up with the Boy Scouts and became one of the assistant scout leaders or whatever.
Yeah.
And we go on all our camping trips and all that. And like there was those, I wouldn't say nerdy or goofy. It's a very good thing. It teaches you how to be regimental and all the proper ways to act. There's a lot, but my dad was like the cool dad that was in the corner talking about like the band days, and like, we used to play this gig and Tommy Patena would come and play, and like just telling stories about like these fascinating stories of his heyday in the band and how great it was. And,
Oh yeah.
So it just sounded like great to me. Like, man, that's what I want to do. I want to be a musician. I want to play guitar. I want to sing, So that's where the whole, like, it interested me. Like, man, to be able to go up on stage and play for a bunch of people and make people happy, and just sounded like an awesome gig. So yeah, that's where it came from, was that and all the Motown records laying around. My mom was a big Beatles fan, so she was a big influence too. And but she was more on the harmonies and stuff like that. She listened to she was more the hippie one. My dad and uncle were the greasers, and she was like the hippie, I guess.
Well, that's a good combo. I would say, and with reggae itself, it's always a broad genre. I mean, a lot of people that aren't familiar with like all kinds of reggae, they automatically assume like reggae as in roots reggae, but they don't know that there's so much different styles of reggae that it blends with everything. But no, it's good that you have a diverse background.
Yeah. They didn't know anything about reggae. My dad thought ska was polka the first time he heard it. He's like, "What's this polka music you're playing around the house, Jughead?" No, they like it though. They're really happy with what Aggrolites have done and all that. They support and they come out to our gigs when they can. So good parents.
Well, an interesting project that I've actually got a chance to listen myself. You actually have a children's album, which you are under the name Happy Wags. What got you into that project?
So it was, I forget what year this is. Everything's a blur. It was like 2010 or so. And we were touring. It was like in the midst of just that constant being on the road. And I had my laptop when I had that program called GarageBand in it. And I was like learning how to record. And that'd be like some fun thing to do, like while being on tour, to occupy yourself in the van or whatever while driving. Not literally while driving, but while sitting in the van while somebody else is driving. And that song Banana, the cover song that we do, it was a big hit on a kids show called Yo Gabba Gabba, which was on Nickelodeon. So it was like everywhere we go, for a few years, until today actually, but it was like for a minute there, it was like our audience was like really not changing, but growing, because there was like, we it used to be like a subculture, a lot of skinheads, a lot of punk rock kids, a lot of mods and rude boys and stuff like that. And like over the years, it started to turn into like house, like middle-aged moms that have like kids at home, and like kids coming to the shows. And a lot of people was that Banana song was a big deal. So
yeah,
we were constantly getting asked by fans at concerts to get children's merch, which we've rarely ever done, made kids shirts. and to come out with a kids record.
Yeah.
But we were so busy at the time. It's like we had no time to sit down and write, or no time to even think of recording an album because we were spending so much time on the road. I guess that I sound like lazy by, there's a lot of laziness too. You get on the road, you just get kind of stuck in a thing. A lot of people are motivated and go home and go right to the thing, and we didn't do that. When we were home, we liked being home.
Yeah.
But with that, my sister was just had 2 kids, and I'd be home. Like I'd come home, visit my family. I'd be around my sister and her kids all the time. So
yeah,
hey, Sean, remember pee-pee in the potty, like these things. Use your words, you're like all these like things. It's like,
yeah,
damn good song. So I was chatting with my sister one day about it. My sister's like, she's like the silent musician. Like she grew up doing theater and plays and all that stuff, and she sings, but she never went that route, And she started writing stuff with me, coming up with ideas and all that. And so I started recording it, and that was it. It was like, hey, that's what I would do on my free time, spare time. I'd be just making up some kid song.
Yeah.
Before you knew it, I had like 10 of them, and it was like, I could make an album out of this, but who's going to sign it? Who's going to put it out? And sure enough, that's when I saw that Mike Park from Asian Man Records was doing what he was calling it Kindie, which is indie kid music, but indie. Okay. And the label was called Fun Records, and he had signed a few different bands. The guy from Bouncing Souls and his wife, called Playdate, they had a thing, and so I was like, man, I might as well hit him up, Mike Park, from the ska scene, Asian Man Records, like see if he'd be interested. And sure enough, Mike Park was down with it. So that's what happened. Yeah. And it's still out there. You can still get it.
Oh yeah.
It's out there digitally. I have a whole bunch of not a whole bunch. I have a few vinyl left in my bedroom closet.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to sell for a minute there. I sold a few. Every now and then I'll sell a couple. So.
Well, I hope our listeners get a chance to, listen to that album, because I listened to it myself, and it's a good album. I wouldn't. I'm more of a melody person, so I don't focus on too much of the lyrics unless I'm listening to it multiple times. But I was just grooving on the music the whole time. I forgot that the whole, it's a children's album itself.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's what I was going for. I was trying to all this kid music that I was hearing at the time, going over to my sister's house would always be like the most annoying, like crap that would get stuck in your head. It's like, I hate this. Like, why do these? So it's like, I'm going to try to make something cool for the parents to enjoy.
Yeah.
For the kids to play around the house with the kids. So yeah, that's what the idea was. Like, let's try to get away from that goofy, bubblegummy kind of, I love you, you love me, we're a happy, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
My brother, he usually plays old soul R&B music, like a lot of Luther Vandross, for his son, who's I think a year and a half now. But I kind of want to just play your album and see how he reacts, because I tell him like I got to get them listening to reggae at an early age, just to as they grow up, like really enjoying the reggae music and the positive vibes. But yeah, I would say that's a good album if anyone wants to introduce their children or maybe nephews or anything like that, or nieces. That's a good album just as an introduction to reggae.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. Appreciate that. I'll tell you though, the kid would probably end up growing up to be way smoother if he was a Vandross.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he'd be way cooler than that if he than listening to Happy Wags. Yeah, there's actually even a tune on there called "They Want to Play," which is like it's a story about the Ramones as little kids all playing baseball together. So that's a good introduction, I guess, to punk rock for young ones too.
Yeah. Something that I'm curious of, because I've seen in a previous interview that you mentioned very briefly that you've actually had some experience with seeing ghosts. And I would say I'm a believer of the paranormal. I've never seen a ghost myself. So I got to ask you, so what was your experience like?
All right. Well, so I'll try to make this as short as possible. There's actually UXB, the band, the punk band that I'm in that we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
There's a song on that album called Night Marchers, which is one of the, the ghost stories.
Yeah.
As a kid, we grew up like Catholic, Italian Catholic kind of thing. So we were always afraid of everything growing up. That's just the
Yeah.
way that we were raised, to be
Yeah.
scared of anything. But no, I was about 20 years old, a long time, 20 years ago now. And it was my first time to Hawaii, right? And I went with it was an ex-girlfriend and her family. So we were still young, and it's like, they were nice to let me go on a vacation with them. But the thing was, you have to sleep in a different room, you're young and all that. Even though you're over 18, you're with our family, don't sleep in the same. So anyways, I slept on the couch, like out in the living room. They rented like a house. They had a good amount of money, so they rented like this nice house right off the beach in Kona. And I started to fall asleep, and all of a sudden, like when you're going through like a halfway you're asleep and halfway awake kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
I was in that kind of sense. And I was laying on my back, and I closing my eyes, and I'm like starting to go off and drift off into sleep, and I start hearing like this cool like drum beat, like a drum kind of noise. And I'm like kind of grooving to it. Like, this is a good dream. All right, it's getting cool. Hearing some cool music, like tribal music or something. It's awesome. And then I start hearing like some guy behind the drums, and his voice like start getting louder and louder and louder, and all of a sudden it got to the point to where he was like screaming, yelling at me, and I'm like thinking like, oh man, this is starting to get annoying. Like this guy won't shut up. This guy's kind of scaring me.
Yeah.
And it started really bad, screaming and all that, and to where it got to the point to where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna ignore this. I'm just gonna like keep my eyes shut and like pretend I'm dead and just pretend it's not there. And it got really scary, man, like terrifying. And then all of a sudden his voice just kind of vanished, and the drumming just like went past me. Total honest truth. I ended up like hearing the drums go off, and then all of a sudden I opened my eyes, and I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, like that didn't feel like a dream. Like I can't say if it was a dream but it was like that. I knew where I was. I knew where I was laying.
Oh yeah.
I was just listening. Like I felt I was imagining this sound. So I ran to the bedroom and I slept with the light on, like a little scaredy cat. I slept with the light. I was terrified. And that whole week I was scared staying in that house. Anyways, 10 years later, we go to Hawaii, the Aggrolites, for the first time, and we make friends with some locals. And this is like one of the nights off from a gig, and we all go eat like poke. There's like a big meteor shower in the sky. So we were all going to go to the beach, kick it, watch the meteor shower, and eat poke and like tell stories.
Oh yeah.
So everybody starts telling, you're around a campfire, you're on the beach.
Yeah. And
people start telling stories, and then I'm like, oh man, I got a good one. It has to do with Hawaii.
Yeah.
So I start explaining to them, and this is on Oahu. The first time that one time was on the Big Island. So I started telling them a story, and the local group, there was like a dude, his girlfriend, and one of his buddies. They're like, oh yeah. Like right when I started telling the stories, oh yeah, night marchers. Those are night marchers. And I'm like, what do you mean night marcher? What's a night marcher? I had no idea what this night marcher thing was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you don't know. Night marchers is like a serious thing out here. No, that's real. That wasn't a dream. That's real. I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are starting to freak me out. What the hell is a night marcher? And they explained it to where they first off, they said, let me ask you this. Were you on the Big Island, anywhere near the ocean? And I was like, dude, we were in this house, like literally a block or two away from the water.
Yeah.
And they go, this was on the Big Island, not no, this was on the Big Island. Like, and they knew the area I was at and all that. Yeah. Like, yeah, that's heavy night marcher area. Oh yeah, they're always there. Night marchers are always there. And they explained to me that night marchers is supposedly the spirits of these like old warrior, like Hawaiian warrior dudes that they'd march with the drums. Mm-hmm. And I guess they'd march around the outskirts of the island I've heard different stories. Like they would collect taxes from people that didn't belong in certain parts. But the ghost story of it is, if you're like a haole, like I am, when you don't you're not from the island and you're a visitor.
Yeah.
And if you're in a place somewhere and you cross paths and these night marchers come at you, you got to pretend that you got to bury your face and hide on the floor, and that's the only way that they'll leave you and let you go. But if you don't, they'll kill you or some crazy shit like that. So it's weird, just because I did do that. I remember specifically like turning my head and like covering my face and acting like it wasn't there, and it did go away. But man, I was obsessing over that for a while. I went on every YouTube video I could, went down the rabbit hole of just like night marcher this, night marcher that. So sure enough, later on, the UXB, we were trying to write a certain song, and I was like, I got a great idea. Let's call the song Night Marchers. So you could look further. I tell the story a lot better in that song. It's more poetic, but that's a ghost story. There you go. Happy Halloween pretty soon.
Oh man, that's cool. Well, Jesse, we're at a new segment in this podcast called Self-Reflections. So this question is, what's the best thing you learned about yourself during this pandemic?
I've learned that I think I learned maybe just like the whole doing the dedications thing is it might take me some time to get something done, but when I'm doing something, I'll stay focused on it,
Mm-hmm.
And I've also noticed I can't sit around and just be bored. Like if I'm like, I remember when the whole quarantine first started, it was like, you can't do anything, don't go anywhere, don't do nothing. And I was driving myself nuts. I had to do something, So I can't. A lot of people I was talking to on the phone back then were like, "Oh man, this is great! Like, just get up whenever I want. Don't got to go anywhere. Just lay around my PJs and watch TV all day and eat junk food." So it was like, I wasn't like that. I get too like anxious if I'm like sitting around doing nothing, So that's probably it.
I tried to resist the urge to just sit down and watch Netflix or binge on like those streaming shows, because they can really suck you in. Like, especially
don't get it twisted. I got me some Cobra Kai in there. I watched that and Boardwalk Empire.
Oh man, that'll suck you in.
But that would be late at night, after doing somewhat of productive things during the day.
Yeah. Cool. Well, since we're wrapping up, is there anything you want to share with our listeners?
Just things that you had mentioned already. The UXB album, it just dropped August 14th, and that's on Demons Run Amok Records, based out of Germany. So if you go to United X Bombs or check that out, you'll find it. It's digital platforms everywhere. And then also Reggae Now, which is out now since last summer, but that's the new Aggrolites album. And keep looking at the Aggrolites website, agroreggae.com, and the Aggrolites Instagram for further details on the upcoming live stream event that we're going to do on what did I say it was? November 6th. So keep an eye out for that stuff. And that's about it, man. I appreciate you having me. And I dig that shirt. That shirt's pretty cool, dude. It's like Zach Morris. Saved by the Bell vibes. I'm digging it. I like it.
All I need is my big block cell phone.
My old man glasses.
Oh yeah.
I like them, man. It's a cool shirt.
Thank you. I appreciate you joining us on the show, and I'm sure our listeners will definitely enjoy all the music that you guys have out now. Appreciate this from the bottom of my heart. But Jesse Wagner, thank you so much for joining us on Irie Chat, and best of luck on everything.
Right on, dude. Have a good one. Hope to see you in Florida one of these days.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. Okay, take care, man.